You're listening to Psych with Mike. For more episodes or to connect with the show with comments, ideas, or to be a guest, go to www.psychwithmike.com. Follow the show on Twitter @PsychWithMike or like the Facebook page @PsychWithMike. Now, here's Psych with Mike.
Welcome into the Psych with Mike Library. This is Dr. Michael Mahana. I'm here with Mr. Brett Newcomb.
We are back.
We are back. That's a poltergeist line.
Oh, I thought it was a dinosaur. It was a Walt Disney film. Oh, no, it wasn't Walt Disney. It was Uncle Walter narrated that film.
Oh.
My little kid watched it a lot when he was young. And I think there was a time.
Oh, you know what?
We're back.
No, we're back.
Yeah.
No, in Poltergeist, it's they're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm completely off base. Don't listen to me.
Well, I've thought that for years.
So, how are you?
I'm doing well.
And are you a good therapist?
When I was actively a therapist, I presumed, with some supportive evidence, that I was probably the best one in town.
Mm-hmm. How did you know?
So there are different ways to measure that, different ways to answer that question. I had more clients than I could handle.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ever have to market myself. They just came. And again, if you're good, then your clients will reproduce themselves. They'll go out and say, oh, go talk to this person. Or go talk to this person. So that was always the circumstance. But another way to answer the question is to say, for me personally, when it was working well and strongly, it was like a pass-through experience for me. It wasn't like I was doing anything. There was just dance music that played and we danced and it felt good about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Not like you feel good about it afterwards. A lot of times when people leave your office, they're in tears.
Oh, yeah.
They're in deep sadness. They're in deep grief. They're in deep anger. You're numb, drained, because the raw emotional experience of being present in the moment with someone is draining and exhausting.
Right.
But if that's what needed to happen to unlock and unblock them, then that was good therapy.
Well, and I actually, for years, said that the way that I rated how good my day was how many people cried in session. And my kids used to ask me, when my kids were little, I would come home at night and they would ask me how many people cried today. And I really have always believed that is so cathartic, that we are so disconnected from our sadness, and tears are such a healing part of being human that can be really important. Now, it can't
I don't disagree with you,
Yeah.
but I really cannot. I really flare at the idea of setting a parameter, say, I'm going to make 5 people cry today.
Okay, and I didn't finish my thought. And you can't set out to do it. It has to be organic.
Spontaneous and organic.
And there were many, many times when I could tell that there was a 15-year-old man, boy, whatever, in my office who was right on the verge of tears, and that would completely destroy the foundations of and underpinnings of his self-concept to start crying, and I would back off of that. So I knew I tried to judge when I felt like that was going to be beneficial to the therapeutic process and not. But emotional regulation is so central to everything that I do that I really felt good about my ability to help people to experience genuine emotion. And I thought that was, or I think that is, one of the things that make me a good therapist.
If you can facilitate that reality, yeah. But you can't orchestrate it or manipulate it.
No.
Okay.
I mean, and because if it's a manipulation, then it's in service to the therapist, not in service to the client. So no, it can't.
Or to the therapist's agenda, which is the same thing.
Yeah. So no, it can't ever be manipulated. But I think that if you are genuine and real as a therapist, and you and being true to yourself, and being true to myself means I'm working to help you to be more emotionally expressive, then those kinds of things are going to happen.
You're not getting off on how brilliant you are, how much you know, how much you see.
Well, I mean, that's always the struggle.
Possibility.
Yeah.
It's a whole countertransference issue. Again.
You know, I would like to believe.
Let me show you how smart I am.
That at 58 years old, that I am beyond some of those kinds of narcissistic.
I'm 75 and I still need that payoff.
So,
I need to be in front of people who say, oh my gosh, he knows so much.
Yeah. But I really strive to make sure that whatever I'm doing in therapy is in service to the client and not in service to me.
Absolutely. And if you don't, you're not doing good work.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of how we would think of ourselves and why we are good. How does a client know?
That's a great question. Thinking back, clients would spontaneously say, unasked, things like, you understand me.
Mm-hmm.
You make me feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
You give me something that I don't get somewhere else.
So I think that probably, your second statement is probably, for me at least, if I were going to tell a client, this is what you should look for in therapy, I think that's it. The ability to feel safe. You have to feel safe to be able to peel back the layers of the onion. If there's no safety, there can't be any therapy.
So I think that ebbs and flows because I think people come in, and it's a whole thing, conversation among therapists and insurance companies and provider situations about brief therapeutic interventions and long-term psychotherapy. The presenting problem that brings somebody in is usually not the underlying problem.
Yeah.
Almost never is. But there are problems that people come in and process and make changes, and they hit a plateau. They say, I've absorbed enough. I'm finished with therapy. I've done what I came here to do. I'm all better now. And the therapist, a good therapist, will say, okay, if you're ready to stop, we'll stop. So you stop. And then 3 months, 6 months, a year goes by, and they call and come back. So that's one way that you know you've done good work, is the client will come back. Another way you know it is if they give themselves permission to go to somebody else. Like I've talked through my family of origin issues with you, but now I want to talk about my sexuality and my gender identity, and I don't think I want to have that conversation with you. I want to go to somebody that specializes in that. So you say, well, great, good luck. Can I give you some referrals? Do you have somebody in mind? And not, you have no ownership. You have no manipulation. He's like, that's fine. You go and do what you need to do. That's what this is all about. You get the strength and the permission to give yourself permission to go and do what you need to do to make you happy, make your life work, make these circumstances change. And again, in my experience, people will go away and see somebody else, and then they'll come back. I mean, over the course of a 35-year career, I constantly had overlapping returns from previous years, or sequential. A father would send his son, the son would send his girlfriend, the girlfriend would send her mother. I mean, you just get those waves and echoes of connectivity. Then you have to remember how to keep the story straight and keep the confidentiality lines in place. But it can be done. So good therapists open the door and people come.
So if you were having a conversation with someone, so not a client, with someone that you knew, maybe not even someone that you were in a family relationship with, just
Right.
somebody that you knew, an acquaintance, maybe a good friend, and that person said to you, I'm going to therapy and I'm seeing this person and I'm not sure whether they're good for me. What would you tell them was the qualities that they should be
I would
looking for?
encourage them, first of all, to have that conversation with their therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So if I come as a client to you and I'm feeling that, and I tell my next door neighbor, uh, I would hope what they would say to me is, are you able to raise that
Mm-hmm.
in a session? I don't feel comfortable talking to you about that. I get vibrations. I get something from you that says I'm not supposed to say that. Or I get something, I just feel like I can't approach this with you. Because, like, for instance, I had a couple come and see me. A black man, white woman, were married. And they were having marital problems.
Mm-hmm.
And first session, and this guy was so phenomenal, so good. First session, I said, obviously, I come from the South. You can hear it in my voice. I'm white, and I wonder if you have any concerns about my ability to hear you
Mm-hmm.
and do therapy with you, given what you can just tell from seeing me, what my background is.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me for a while, dead silent. And he looked at his wife, and he looked back at me, and he said, yes, I have a concern. And I said, can you voice it? Will you share it with me? And he said, yes. He said, part of the problems that we're having in our marriage is that I have fantasies about making love to different white women.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to talk about that, can you hear that without going all white on me?
Mm-hmm.
As a black man who wants to have sex with white women. I thought that was marvelous that he was able to do that. And if I could satisfy his question honestly, in his perception, then we could have those conversations.
And so, okay, so then that's what I would like to drill down on is he was asking you a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
To see what my reaction was going to be and what he felt.
How would he, how could he trust the answer?
Well, because you have a bullshit meter. If you're a survivor in life, you have that. You know when people are gaming you, manipulating you, scamming you, generally. So he had his meter out. He was checking to see what did my eyes flare? Did my body posture change? Did my voice quality change? How did I answer the question? Did I give him a BS answer? Did I give him an honest answer? I gave him the honest answer that I could give him. I think so. You'll know. I mean, we can go down that road, and if it's not working for you, you'll know. Just stop the session and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do this. And if you're comfortable with my response to what you're sharing, that I can hear you without attacking you or judging you, then you'll feel better because of it. So
this is an ancillary question that, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But what I'm wondering is,
I don't want to.
People having fantasies in the context of their marriage actually is healthy. It's not even a negative thing. I mean, your
but
spouse...
it could potentially be negative in a relationship, depending on how you can talk about it and share it.
No, but what I'm wondering is, was the wife disturbed because he was having fantasies of having relations with other women?
So we got into all that later.
I mean, how is that different than having relations with other women, period?
Fantasizing about it versus acting on it?
No. I'm wondering what was a part of the issue for the wife that he was fantasizing about other white women, or was it that he was fantasizing, period? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do now.
Yeah.
That wasn't his question. His question was a strange white man.
Yeah.
Given
No. I understand that, but I mean, when you guys started,
when we got into it, no, they had more issues in their marriage than that.
So that was just something that he was putting out on the table to
test
see
me.
Yeah, what your reaction would be.
He felt okay talking to me,
and that is so important. If you are doing therapy, or if you haven't started doing therapy yet, that is so important. Is the understanding that the client is going to throw that stuff out there to see how you react. That may not have anything at all to do with why they're there or what the course of therapy is going to be like. But it's important as a new therapist that you not get freaked out by that.
Exactly. Or offended or challenged. I mean, it's not an attack. It's a risk that they take.
I don't know that you will remember this, but when I first left the hospital and went into the group practice, some of the people that I was seeing at the hospital followed me.
Yeah.
And there's this one young girl who followed me. At the time, I was in my 30s. She was in her early 20s. She had lived on a trust for her entire life, had never had a job. She wasn't ever going to have a job because she didn't need any money. And she would go through treatment periodically to clean out so that she could go out and do drugs because she couldn't get high anymore. And she came into the office and said to me one day, "I got a new tattoo." I said, "Oh, that's interesting." She said, "Can I show it to you?" And I said, "Sure." And so she stood up and turned around and undid her pants. And I jumped up and started screaming, "I'm not going to be your boyfriend." And you were in the room next to me doing therapy. And when we came out, you and the director of the group practice were there, and not in a judgmental or angry way. Both of you said, "Oh, was that an interesting session?" Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, yeah, those. Yeah, she said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to make another appointment." She didn't show up for the next appointment, and that was fine. But people are going to do things in therapy simply to see how you will react.
Yeah.
And it's important that you are able to tolerate that and to comport yourself in a way that is appropriate and helps to lay the groundwork. This is all about, can I trust you? Right? And so I wish I had that to do over again, because I would have handled that differently. Now, I don't know, if there would have been a long therapeutic relationship there or not, but that's why understanding your own countertransference.
Well, I think there was a question you should have asked
important.
when she said, "Can I show it to you?"
Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's go to our break and we'll pick that up on the other side. If you've gotten this far into the show, then obviously you find the show to be worthwhile, beneficial, maybe even helpful. And so I just wanted to say, if you've gotten this far into the show and you want to help us out, even if you don't want to help us out, just do it anyway. Go to Apple Podcasts and rate us and leave a review. That is super helpful. Subscribe to the show on YouTube and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications when new shows drop. That stuff is really, really helpful for us. And I know that Mr. Brett agrees.
Absolutely. Reviews are positive. Positive reviews are more positive, but negative ones are as well, because it helps you decide how to focus and how whatever you're intending to say is being heard.
And the secret is the algorithm doesn't care whether the review's positive or negative.
As our friend Mike Norton says regularly, feedback is a gift.
If it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike. Okay, we're back. Yes, you are absolutely right. Where is it was the clear next question that I did not
have
ask.
Asked, right?
Yes.
No, and you just so reflexively say, "Sure." I had a client in her 50s, I think, mid-50s, woman who was widowed, who lived alone, was trying to date, and she decided to go and have some boudoir photos made of herself in skimpy negligees at this photographer that specialized in those things, with filters and gauzy looking things that she thought would take wrinkles away and make her look better and what have you. And she came in and she was talking about that experience, and she felt like it was a really good experience for her and gave her some self-confidence and blah, blah, blah. And then she pulls up this big photo album and she's like, "I want to show you the pictures." And I said, "No." And she was really distraught. She said, "Why don't you want to see them?" I said, "Because it's not appropriate for me to see them. I don't need to see the pictures to talk to you about what that was like for you, what you're trying to get out of it, how you felt about it. Showing me those pictures is an invitation for us to lose our boundaries and not in totally unacceptable ways, but just it takes us out of focus. So, no, I don't want to see them, but I want to talk to you
Yeah.
about what it was like for you to have it done and
Right.
how it makes you feel.
That's a fantastic answer. That's a fantastic way of handling that. I would hope that I would do the same. I don't know if I think I would now. I don't know that I would have.
Well, but so then you come back to, all right, you're a person and you're a therapist.
Mhm.
Clinically, in a session, I'm try real hard not to promote my ideas or agendas or feelings about politics or religion or money management or things like that.
Mhm.
I try to hear what the client needs to focus on and feed that back to them and help them discover their own path forward. But if I'm just socially hanging out with you, I will say something. I was on Facebook with a former high school student of mine the other day, and I posted something that I thought was funny. And he wrote back and said, I can't believe that you, of all people, would make fun of somebody's religion.
Mhm.
And I said, well, I didn't think that I was making, I was making fun of the meme that was on Facebook, which to me was poorly worded and poorly visualized and so on. So I was making fun of that.
Yeah, I was making fun of the English.
Yeah,
Not
exactly,
religion.
Exactly. I said, however, I have never made an attempt to be concerned about political correctness
Mhm.
my whole life. If you know me personally, you know I'm not politically correct. But in session, none of that matters.
Mhm.
I don't bring that to the table
Mhm.
in a session with a client. I wait for the client to bring their stuff to the table,
Well,
and then I try to hear it.
you know, the reason that I say, oh, I wish I would handle it that way, I certainly think I would now, is because I think that, you know, it's a part of that whole seduce the therapist kind, and she may not have even been intending that, but you know, the therapist could say, oh, she wants to share this with me. They're obviously not pornographic because she's not
They're
going
quasi, it's soft porn. I mean, she's in a negligee with fancy lighting and
Yeah.
backdrops, and
Well, but I mean, I don't think that those places take pornographic photographs.
I would not know.
I would not know either, but my assumption would be that they weren't. So I would go into it thinking, okay, they're not pornographic, they're revealing, but no different than if I saw her on the beach in a bikini, and so
You're overthinking it. I
Yeah.
just think it's better to say no. That's
no, you're absolutely right. But I think that a therapist could get into that whole debate with themselves.
yeah.
But you're absolutely right. The correct answer is that's an opportunity for the boundaries to become slippery, and I would prefer not to go there.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a good therapist for a client is a therapist that's going to help that client feel safe and be able to explore their own interpersonal world, should the client always feel comfortable in therapy.
No.
Right. And that's
No,
the thing.
but when their discomfort should come from getting in touch with
Yes.
the feelings and experiences in their life that causes them distress.
Right.
Not distress that's caused by the therapist in something that they do or say.
Right. I remember I was doing therapy with this gal, and I don't now the details are less concrete for me, but basically her sister was living with her, and she was telling me this story about how her sister was living with her because she couldn't have a decent relation. And the whole reason that she was there was because her most recent relationship had fallen apart. And she was telling me how her sister had, couldn't keep a man, and it was really kind of unfortunate. And she, was kind of upset with her sister because her sister couldn't keep a man. And I had basically said, oh, how is that different from what your experience is? And she lost it and left and never made another appointment. Now, was what I said factually correct? Yes, it probably was. But she wasn't ready to hear it. And one of the things about being a good therapist is being able to know when the client is ready.
Right.
And you may not always be right. It's okay to make a mistake as a therapist. And you're going to know when you make a mistake. It's going to be clear. right? When I said, oh, I'm not going to be your boyfriend, that was a mistake. When I said to this gal, hey, how is what your sister is experiencing different from what you experience? Those were accurate things. They just weren't things that should have been said in that moment. And you got to know, you got to be able to recognize when is it the right time to make this intervention. Even if you know that what the client is saying is a bunch of mumbo jumbo, it might not be the right time to say, that sounds like mumbo jumbo.
Well, they may be trying to struggle to get out whatever they need to say.
Yeah.
And you don't want to shut them down.
Right.
I remember a teenage client of mine that was having family problems at home that were really distressing her. She had so much distress in her body, agitation, anxiety, distress, that she got up off the couch and started pacing back and forth. And so I got up and started pacing with her. I didn't say anything. I just walked beside her and attending to her. So we made 2 or 3 circuits around the room, and then she stopped and started banging her head against the wall.
Yeah.
And then I said, stop.
Yeah.
You cannot hurt yourself.
Right.
I cannot support. I said, we can walk off the energy. We can wait till you're ready to talk. We can talk about whatever you can talk about. And you don't have to talk. You just stay in touch with the feelings and know that you're safe. But you can't hurt yourself or me or the office. You can't punch a hole in the wall. And that's not allowed.
Yeah.
But feeling these feelings is really important. Let's stay with them until we figure out what they are and what they mean. What are they telling you? Where does it hurt? So then she sat back down on the couch and we talked some more.
Yeah. And so that's a great, though, point that you're making about that reciprocal kind of body behavior. So when a client, like if a client is tapping their foot, tap, 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 tap. As a therapist, you can start tapping your foot, tap, 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 tap. Right. And when they say, why are you doing that? You say, I don't know. Why are you doing that? So you can.
I caught it. So you started.
But you can reflect back to them.
Yeah. Fritz Perls used to do a lot of that.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can also then do the opposite. Like when people get loud, 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 I get quiet, quiet, quiet. It's really hard to be screaming at somebody who's whispering.
I had a client, angry teenage girl, who was effing this and effing that. And she had this deep bullhorn voice, and she kept talking. And the therapist in the next room had this little old lady. He said butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, and she was dressed like the queen with her purse.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
And he said she was in session with me, and we could hear this girl screaming the F word over and over again. I said, the woman looked around and she said, can we say that in therapy? And he looked at her and said, you can't.
You can't. Oh, can we curse in therapy? Yeah. I didn't know that was allowed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same rules as church, right?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, that's funny. So I used to tell people, I still tell people all the time, that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And
well, we certainly agree.
And I don't want anybody to be in therapy because they've heard good things about me if it doesn't feel right for them. And so
O.J. Simpson, if it doesn't fit, you must quit.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so it can't be the therapist's job to tell the client
staying.
Well, to tell the client, I'm not a good fit for you, go somewhere else. I mean, if I'm practicing outside my expertise, then yes, I have to draw that boundary.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this.
But so it has to be the client's responsibility to say, this is the right fit for me, or this is the right fit for me at this time. And you're not always going to feel comfortable, because if the therapist is challenging you to go beyond your comfort level, that's the whole point of therapy.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to be, the client has to recognize they're a consumer of a service, and they get to decide whether that service is the right service for them.
Yeah.
And no client should feel obligated to continue therapy with somebody because they came highly recommended if it doesn't feel right to them.
Well, but sometimes people come to therapy because they're being made to come to therapy. Their boss says you have to go see this person. I had some clients that were referred to me by EAPs that their EAP said you have to go see this guy. So they came in already, negative in their perception of me because it was commanded. Or you have a parent that brings you and says, you talk to this guy. It's my job as a therapist to navigate those waters with whoever is ordering it, but also whoever the potential client is. And I can say, it's okay that your mother said you had to come and see me. What I would ask is spend 2 or 3 sessions with me, see how it feels, and see if you get any contamination at home. Like if you feel like I'm calling your mother and saying, oh, Joey's smoking grass, and she's then going through your book bag because I told her to, then you don't feel safe with me. So we need to talk about where the boundaries are and what I might tell her and what I might not tell her. Because you're a minor, she has some legal rights to access information. But I'll have the conversation with you in the room with her about what I will and won't share. And then if both of you sign off on it and say, okay, I'll try that, then come see me. See how it works. Let's test it.
And the therapist can't control whether or not the client is being coerced by an outside source.
Right.
Hopefully the therapist knows if that is the case.
Yeah.
Like, I worked as the clinical director at an EAP for a while also, for a long time actually. And so yes, there would be times when the EAP would say, you have to go see this guy. And, my first, when those people would come into my office, the first thing that I would say to them is, how do you feel about that? I'm not going to pretend like this red herring doesn't exist. I want to talk about it. Yeah. And it's not going to change the fact that you've been required to come and see me, but I would like to understand how you feel about that. Right. Does it make it hard for you to feel like you can trust me? Because I can understand that.
Yeah.
It's okay to acknowledge those things.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the music that appears in Psych with Mike is written and performed by Mr. Benjamin DeClue. As always, we would love it if you would go to the YouTubes and find Psych with Mike and subscribe to the show. That is so helpful for us. Also, another thing that you can do is go to the Apple Podcasts, find us and rate us and leave us a recommendation. That is really helpful also. If you have a question or a comment, anything that we talk about in Psych with Mike, something that we have discussed that you have a question about, please send those to us at psychwithmike.com. Or if you have an idea that you would like to hear us talk about, we would love it if you would get in contact. And the best way to do that is psychwithmike.com. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. And as always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.